How you two young whippersnappers doing?
Oh, we're doing just fine.
Well, you're being mighty kind.
Well, come up here, boys, and we'll just we'll sit here and watch it snow, and I'll make you a snowman.
There you go.
I love the snow.
Oh, it's been I hadn't seen the ground in 2 months, and it's pouring snow out there tonight. You know?
Oh my!
I never get snow in Atlanta.
No, yeah, I know.
Very rare.
Yeah, and when you do, you're paralyzed too. Ain't you?
That's about right. That's about right. Did you get the facts?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we'll do that. I guess towards the end.
Okay.
Basically, Mark, Mark plays piano for Eva Mae.
Yes, I do.
And anyhow, so he's got this collection of songs that goes back probably to the 20s. I don't know.
I'm sure he does.
But we've decided to put together a classics program, so we've dug up some classic cathedral tunes.
Huh?
And even some old Friends tunes that are soon to be classics.
Well, great.
And so we're just going to sort of go through here and ask you your take on some of the songs and kind of talk to you about history.
All right.
And we'll just piece these together throughout the show. So.
Yeah. Well, that's mighty fine, guys. Thanks for inviting me to do this.
Well, we don't want to tire you out now, so
Yeah. Well, if you hear me fall over, just hang up, okay?
We'll do it.
Okay.
We'll do it. Well, Mark, joining us on the program today is a living legend. It's an honor to talk to him. And from his home in Stow, Ohio, on the phone, without further ado, George Younce. How are you?
Hey, Mark, Daniel. Boys, thanks for calling. Yeah, it is snowing up here tonight, and of course I love to sit in the sunroom and watch it snow, So, you boys doing okay?
We're doing just fine.
We're doing great, George, and I can tell you that everybody loves George in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, thanks. That's one of my favorite places because I got a daughter and a son living in Marietta, So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's Robbie.
Robbie and George Lane, yeah.
Well, George, first off, how is your health? How is George Younce doing these days?
Well, you know what? The last couple of weeks, I've had more good days than I have bad days. So after about 3 years here, it looks like things may be getting a little better. We're hoping and praying, So things, it hadn't been really, really awful. It's just that on dialysis, that Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, I'm usually wiped out those days, But those days are even getting better, so thank God,
Yes. Well, when Bill Gaither was in town back, in September, was it, Mark?
It was, the end of September.
He tried to get you on the phone, and it just didn't fall through. But
yeah, I was sitting on the phone that night, and all of a sudden my heart started racing, and I guess I was a little excited.
Yeah.
And my heart started racing, and the room started going around, and so I had to hang up,
Well, George, we do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to do this.
My pleasure, boys. My pleasure.
We've got a song that is a classic George Younce song. Quartets all over the country have tried to do this, and some of them do a pretty good job, but they just don't come close to the way George Younce can sing "I Thirst." Tell us the story that you have with this song.
Well, Mark Lowry's mom wrote that song, and one day, I guess maybe it's a Gaither Press gathering in Indianapolis, she brought it to me, and I took a look at the words. All she had was the words, and she didn't even get a chance to sing with the tune, and she just had the words on a piece of paper. When I read those words, I thought, man, I don't care what the tune is. I got to sing this song. Because one day I came to Jesus, he gave me water that I never dreamed of,
Wow.
And so I went back in, and she sang me the song. And I told Gaither and Mark the reason she brought it to me is she knew they wasn't good enough to sing it.
Well, I'll tell you, that's one of my favorite songs that you have done, George, is that "I Thirst." And you're right, those words are something.
Absolutely. Jesus said if we come to him, he'd give us water that we never dreamed of. What a great line to sing over and over and over,
And he said, "I thirst, yet he made the river."
Yes, one day I came to him, Yeah, it's a great song, and I was proud of that song, and so much response for it. Even today here at my office, my daughter handles all my office here, but she gets requests for the words, and we get letters just saying, I just got the tape with that on it and listened to it. And I got a call from out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There's a guy driving back from California, he and his wife, and they put that in. When it came to that song, they had just pulled over and sat there crying when they called me,
Oh.
And it's a great song.
Well, George, you mentioned that Mark's mom, Bev Lowry, wrote the song. Do you know about what year the song came out, or that she wrote it?
She wrote the song a long time before she brought it to me,
Uh-huh.
I'd say maybe early 90s.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe around 93 is when y'all cut that. I'm not quite sure.
Okay. The next song we have on our list by the Cathedrals is This Old House.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I used to travel when Stuart Hammond would come this way in this part of the country. The Cathedral Quartet would travel with him, and back in those days we went in the car. But we'd do Pennsylvania, and when we was riding on to the next town, or sometimes we'd stay in the same town. Well, Stuart would tell us stories about it is no secret what God can do, and how he wrote This Old House. And so to hear that song from the man's mouth who wrote it, and then to go to London, England one time and record it with a Philharmonic Orchestra, why, that's one of the biggest thrills I ever had in my life. To sing, before I sang the song, I didn't really get I knew what it's about, but I didn't get the gist of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But when Stuart explained everything, man, it took on a brand new meaning to me, and I sung it, opened up with it nearly every night for, gosh, how long? 15 years or so.
Wow.
George, I know the first time I ever heard This Old House, I had to be about, I was born in 61, so I had to be about, I guess, 4 or 5 years old, but I can remember it being on the Caravan record, and the Blue Ridge did that.
Yeah.
And I thought about pulling this for this show, but you're not doing the verses on that, but I could hear you very well.
Yeah.
That's back when you were with the Caravan.
Yeah, back when I was at the Blue Ridge, I didn't have the lead or do any of the verses. I think seemed like Elmo carried well, he was the lead singer, but so Elmo probably, I can't remember. It's been so long ago. That's back way before I could remember things,
How long were you with Blue Ridge Quartet?
9 years.
George, did you sing baritone with Blue Ridge?
No.
Did you sing bass?
I was a bass singer. I left the Weatherfords on WOWO in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Well, I spent a few years there in WOWO. That was a great experience for me doing radio. We had an 8:30 program and a 10:30 program, and in between programs we'd open a songbook and pick out what songs we was going to do. So you had to have a little bit to learn to read a little bit music to sing right out of the book, because you didn't have time to rehearse. So that was one of the smartest things the Lord ever let me do, because to learn how to do that, you learn the shape notes, and it was a great practice for you.
Well, the reason I asked if you sang baritone, I thought I'd heard you tell a story at one point that maybe you... Did you at one time sing baritone?
I started out, I was a lead singer.
Oh, okay.
I was a lead singer in a quartet back home.
Because I heard you giving advice for young bass singers, don't try to sing the lowest notes, it'll come with age.
Yes, and I still believe that, and your depth will come with age. I know when I first started singing bass, I was just thrilled to death if I could hit a D. Then I remember one morning I got up and could hit a D flat, and I thought, man, get out of the way, world, here I come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went from Weatherfords to Blue Ridge?
Uh-huh.
And then from Blue Ridge, then you went the Cathedrals.
From Blue Ridge to the Homeland Harmony there in Atlanta.
Okay.
And I spent several months in Atlanta there with Carnegie Hall and the Homeland Harmony.
Did you live here?
Yes. I can't remember what street I lived. It wasn't too far from, what's that, the all-night hot dog place down there?
The Varsity.
Varsity. I wasn't too far from the varsity, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think Eva Manium lived off of 14th Street, somewhere in that area, and Hemphill Avenue Church of God was down there. And...
Oh, yeah, yeah. It was Connor Hall, Harold Lane, James McCoy.
Harold Lane?
Harold Lane and I was there at the same time with the...
Harold Lane was with the Spears?
And Randy Jones played the piano.
I didn't know Harold Lane was with anybody else but the Spears.
Oh, yeah. Harold, I would go to Harold's house. On his rehearsal, I'd meet Harold 2 hours before we were to rehearse because some of Harold's arrangements are so hard. I'd rehearse with him before we'd go to rehearse with the rest of them. And I'd already know my part, so we'd start singing it, you know. And them guys thought I was something else because I already knew my part.
A novel idea.
They thought I was reading about what Harold had written.
The song Up Above My Head, you re-recorded that with Jake Hess and the Old Friends Quartet recently.
That was a fun song to do. It really was. I still love to sing that, you know.
And we're talking about Atlanta, of course, Big Chief with the Statesmen. And weren't they the original group that did that song?
Yes, and they had to talk me into doing that because once you hear Chief do a song like that, he was for a rhythm-based singer and spitting out the words. Nobody been better than Chief, you know. And he was also good at the ballad too. But once you hear Chief do that song, well, I said, you know what? I'm not going to compare myself to Chief, you know. And finally, Gaither and them talked me into it, you know. So once I did it, and the people seemed to accept it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But Chief was still the master at that, you know.
So was Big Chief a big role model, I take it, for you?
Chief and I were great friends, you know. He was with the Statesmen when I was with the Blue Ridge, and we worked a lot together. And he and I, after concerts, we'd sit around and talk. And he was we would swap vocal lessons with each other, you know. And Chief was a good guy. I liked him.
Now, did you take bass singing lessons from J.D.?
Yes, when I was about 2 years, when I was about 2 years old, J.D. come by the house, and my dad introduced me to him, but I started crying because he was so ugly.
Oh,
I love that.
You ought not to say that.
You know what? I never had a better friend than J.D. But
I know it.
He and I had so many good. For the last 10 years of his life, he called me nearly every day, and we talked and laughed about the old days. And you know what he called for? Just so he could tell me he loved me. Mm. And I'd tell him, J.D., you know, I love you, you know. But the funniest thing, though, right before I retired, right before it was about a year before he died, you know, I love cowboy boots. And you've probably heard this story, but I just bought a pair in Nashville, multicolored snake boots. There's aqua and a little red through them, a little maroon, a green. Yeah. And man, I put them on the night I was working with J.D. And they're so tough I wanted to roll my britches leg up, you know, but I didn't. I walked in proud of those boots, you know, and J.D. looked down at the boots. And he said, "Hey, George, how long did the doctor say you had to wear those?"
Well, you and J.D. went back and forth, but we could tell it was all in love, all in good fun.
You know, at first, people thought that J.D. was my enemy, you know, but when they found out all those singing news articles that we were the best of friends, then they realized the situation.
I really love that story where you said you used to tell him there's nobody I hadn't rather hear sing or something like that.
Yeah, there's nobody that I hadn't rather hear sing than you, J.D.
Urias would have appreciated that joke.
Yeah. And bless her heart, Eva May, she calls quite often, and I love that lady. Quite when I was at Blue Ridge, the Lefebvres, the Blue Ridge, and the Johnson sisters, and the Prophets, we had a thing called the Caravan. You know, we did all over the country programs, So those were incredible days.
That was a pretty. I know a lot of people nowadays probably forgot a lot about the Caravan, but that was really a pretty hot thing going at that time.
Oh, man, I mean, nobody had ever had crowds where we were having crowds, Springfield, Missouri, nobody had ever much had a gospel sing there, and that night they had to turn them away,
Wow.
Well, I know back at that time there was like Steaks from Blackwoods.
Yeah.
They were doing. Was that before Caravan?
Yeah, they started everything before the Caravan, but somehow when they started their TV show, it just didn't go like the Caravan did. And I think Eva May had the most to do with that, because what a fine front lady she was, and when she'd rear back and laugh, the people just loved that, So that show became popular, and then of course it was on a lot of stations. We were sponsored by Martha White Flour,
Right.
And a lot of the stations carried it, so the God opened up a lot of doors there.
Well, George, I tell you, we're going to have Eva May in probably in a few weeks and do a show featuring her, and so we'll use those words you just said there. We'll sort of surprise her with those.
That's great, because she's my lady. She is the jewel of gospel music.
The next song we've got on the list that we'll talk about. Well, we've got what is this, Mark? Beyond the Sunset, and we'll go into Supper Time. But we've got you. It's a live program, and I think you're already going to introduce that on the CD that we have.
You're talking about Supper Time now?
I think that's right.
Well, this was in that project that the cathedrals put out when you did the program back at your hometown in Lenore.
Oh, yeah.
And you introduced Supper Time.
Even now, the real popular song for me on stage was This Old House that we opened up, but the most requested song I've ever sang in all my life was Supper Time. A few days ago, I hadn't been out in 9 months, and Ernie and his new group was singing down in Canton, about 30 minutes away. So I went out, and the Lord gave me enough strength to go out, and I walked on stage and sang Supper Time, and it's just been a wonderful song for me,
You mentioned Ernie, and the Old Friends Quartet has just put out a brand new project. It's called I'm Feeling Fine. Is that right?
Yeah, that was a lot of hard work on there, because some pretty hard arrangements, and so I wasn't able to go to Nashville or to any of the recordings, and so after they finished their part, they sent the tape up here to me, and I got an ADAT out in my stock room. So me and Ernie went out there. Ernie turned it on. I'd sit there with a mic, and I'd sing. I'd do it early in the morning when I was fresh, still in my pajamas, and then I'd sing 2 or 3 songs, and maybe if I give it, I'd go back to bed and get up and eat breakfast, and then go back out and sing another song. But in about 2 weeks' time, I'd sung my part out in my garage. And so Gaither called me, and when he heard the finished product, he said, George, what'd you say you recorded your part? I said, out in my garage, Gaither. He said, unbelievable.
Modern technology.
Yeah.
Well, is the Old Friends Quartet still traveling, or is it mainly just a recording group now?
Well, we were going to travel when we did this last album, but then Jake had his problems, and then my dialysis started really taking a toll on me. For 2 years on Friday after dialysis, I get home about 10. Well, Gaither would pick me up in his jet at noon. Mm-hmm. We'd fly somewhere for Friday night and do a concert. Then we'd fly somewhere Saturday. After I got off stage on Saturday, he'd fly me right back home. And Kent State has a little airport about 3 minutes from my house, which made it unbelievable, So those 2 years, I think, maybe took too much of a toll on me. By doing dialysis and traveling like that, I got to where I just couldn't hold my head up, Mm-hmm. So in Carnegie Hall, it all came to a head in Carnegie Hall. And I passed out on. I grabbed a hold of Jake and made it through the song. You can't tell it on the video, but Ernie and them had to carry me off stage, you know. And,
wow.
What song was that? I see.
Great Day.
Great Day. Mm-hmm.
That video where we do Great Day.
Right.
That's where I passed out. I told the people later, and that my heart went crazy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I told the people I sung my heart out in Carnegie Hall.
Well, I remember hearing that story, and Ernie or someone was writing about it later, and they said that the firefighters who were backstage, part of the tribute to be performed at the Carnegie Hall performance that night, a lot of the firefighters kind of treated you very special that night.
They ratted around me. They saw what happened when they come to Caravan stage. They set me in a chair, and two of them knelt down. And the first thing they did, both of them put a hand on each knee. They prayed the sweetest prayer you ever heard in your life. And then they said, "George, we got the ambulance out here waiting on you." I said, "You know what? The pilot is out at the airport waiting on me in the plane. I got a private jet. He'll fly me right." They said, "George, you need to go check this out before you go home." So they told. I never been treated. And two of those guys, they were going to. There was a song that Gaither was going to sing in honor of the firefighters. Well, they were still with me when it was time to go on stage. Those two said, "Hey guys, you guys go out. We feel better here with George. We're going to help him to the ambulance."
Wow.
So they missed their tribute for the people to applaud for them to take care of an old man, and I'll never forget that.
That's what heroism is all about, isn't it, George?
Absolutely, absolutely. Those guys, they wanted to take care of me. They didn't want to go out and grab any glory, you know, or any applause from the audience. They wanted to make sure that I made it to the ambulance and made it to the hospital.
Well, the next song, "Thanks to Calvary."
Oh, yeah.
That song it sounds like such a personal message that's contained in the words of those.
It's wonderful. I love that.
In fact, for years now, I've got all my things letters that Gina's typed up. She leaves me a space in between to sign my name in between "Thanks to Calvary" and George Younce.
It's kind of a signature for you, I guess.
Oh man, it was Gaither was by his house one time, and we were rehearsing, you know. So he played this song, and when I heard it, I said, "Oh man, you got to do that song." And in fact, we were in Gaither's living room rehearsing with him and new songs. A lot of good things happened there, but this one here, it fit my life so well, you know, because when I was in the service, I got with the wrong people, and I was in the 82nd Airborne, and I thought you had to get drunk every night to prove how tough you was, you know. And so that song meant a lot to me because God gave me a chance to clean my life up and have a family and a wife that we've been married all these years, you know, and so thanks to Calvary, I'm still here. Nothing I've done, but because of goodness, His mercy, and I'm here.
And George, I can always say that every time I've ever seen you, you have always been kind, always willing to speak, and you know you're the type person that could have a big head if you wanted to, but you're always down to earth and take time to speak to people and.
Well, you know what? I've always enjoyed that. I enjoy people. I enjoyed meeting people. I enjoyed shaking hands and hugging necks. But that's something that you have to enjoy because if it's something you make yourself do, then it ain't going to come across very well. You know?
Yeah. Well, George, here's our final song, and we'll close out this way.
Okay.
Our special guest on today's broadcast has been none other than George Younce, featured a lot of the great songs that the Cathedral performed, even Old Friends, and some that George just kind of took the lead on all by himself. George, it's been an honor to have you on the program. We're going to close out with a couple of great closing songs that we've chosen. What a Meeting in the Air, and I'll Have a New Life with Everybody Will Be Happy over there. Some exciting songs. And until we talk to you next time, hang in there. Know that Atlanta loves you, and we love you, and thanks so much for taking time out to do this.
Hey, Daniel, Mark, this has been one of the easiest interviews I've ever done in all my 50-some years out here. You just made it a joy for me, and thank you for this opportunity. I love the Atlanta area, and I know from the cards and letters they've shown their love to me. But tonight I fell in love with you two guys, so thanks again.
Well, thank you, George. We love and appreciate you very much. And I think about the song, What a Meeting. What a time that will be when we'll get to see all the bass singers that's gone on before, like Rex Nealon.
Oh, yeah,
JD,
Rex was a dear friend, you know.
And J.D. and a lot of the gospel singers that's passed away.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting with them bass singers, and we're going to have a bass singers quartet up there. J.D.'s going to be singing tenor.
That's right. Absolutely.
You know, I guess in my mind, I thought with your health the way it was, I guess we probably would have thought, well, George would have went first, but look at everybody that's went before.
I know. Well, you know, the reason we retired the cathedrals is my kidneys was giving out, and one day sitting over here, Glenn said, I said, Glenn, let's try to make one more year because I'd like to go make a round and tell everybody goodbye. And so my kidneys are failing, and I may not make it, but let's try. And so Glenn was making plans of what he was going to do when we retired, and I was making no plans because I didn't know if I'd make it through the dialysis or not, and here I are. You never know.
Who would have thought Glenn would have went before, you know, or that quick?
In fact, a lot of people called places and said, "You've made a mistake. Aren't you sure that it was George that went before Glenn because he was sick?" You know.
Yeah.
And then Rex Nealon just passed him away.
That was such a thing. Rex and I guess Rex was one of the best friends I ever had in my life. We stayed in touch all these years, you know, and he was a good guy.
I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, buddy.
This has been really an honor for us to get to do this. I am 21 years old, George.
Oh, my land.
I met you. I remember I was 18. You were in Warner Robins, Georgia, at the Civic Center. That's where I grew up, and I told you I had just bought your soundtrack. I think it was "Set Me on the Rock, Joshua." Okay. I don't remember what it was. I said, George, your range kind of fits me. And you put your arm around me and was just so kind, just reiterating what Mark was saying, how kind of an individual you are. Well, you and Glenn both, really.
Well, thank you, buddy. Daniel, I appreciate that. That's the first solo album I ever done was that song on it, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, I did a couple of solo things, and they're all right, but, you know, I'm an old quartet man.
Mm-hmm.
That laughing song, you know, you can't help but laugh when you hear that.
I know it. Oh.
Yeah, that laughing song. Oh, gosh, I just wonder, we never did keep a count on it, but I just wonder how many cassettes we sold of that thing. It'd be unbelievable, you know. You
know, the song that I find hard to find, you know, you see like the 20 favorites of the cathedrals and stuff like that. And, of course, it's on the Gaither's new CD. But Boundless Love, to me, is sort of hard to find the original version on a CD someplace.
I'll tell you what. That was did at a live thing in Winston-Salem on an album, that album called Boundless Love. And, no, the album was called... was
it on Canaan Records? Or was it on...
It was on a Canaan record, and then they discontinued it. And now we can't find the masters, and they say they're not going to repair. But I think I've got a couple of cassettes left of that. Mark, I could send you a cassette of it, you know.
Oh, I'd love that.
And I might find it on a CD. If I do, I'll send you a CD. Okay.
Okay, I'd love that.
That was a great song for Funderburk. That was back when he was at his best, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've had quite a few star people that went on into...
Kirk Talley, when he was with us, Kirk was the type of guy you could throw the ball to any time in the program, and not only did he make a touchdown, he went for the 2 points after, you know.
Yeah.
So he was incredible. Danny was the same way.
Gerald
Wolf, man. Probably when you got into a place where things wasn't going well, Gerald Wolf was the best that ever been with us. I could turn to him, and he brought the program back out again, you know.
Right. And then you had Mark Trammell.
Mark, man. Well, I got to say this about Mark. Mark is the best quartet man I've ever walked on stage with in my life. And I'm talking about everybody I've ever worked with. That's saying a lot, because not only was Mark great on stage, not only was he great on the bus, in studio, he was phenomenal. We would have never got through Christmas a cappella or the hymn album. Mark directed us through that thing. Not only did he know his part, he knew your part, the lead part, the tenor part. He knew all of them.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
He was a great producer, I think.
And then Ernie, sometimes I'd want to sing Danny's song that featured him, you know. Some nights he'd say, you know what, George, I'm not feeling well tonight. Let's don't sing that song where it really featured him, you know. And Kirk was the same way. Some nights they had colds, some nights they didn't feel like way. But the whole 10 years that I was out there with Ernie, never a night did he say, let's not sing, oh, what a Savior, I'm not in shape. He just nailed it every night, you know, and that's incredible. Yeah. And sometimes we'd sing it morning, afternoon, and night because we'd have 3 programs, you know. Mm-hmm. He's incredible. I'm so happy with this new group. People have been calling me from all over the country, just blown away with Ernie, you know.
Yeah. When we get this put all together, we'll send you a CD of the
show.
Oh,
would you? I would love to hear that. Hey, guys, you know, not every night do I feel like sitting doing this, but I pray that God would give me the strength and to talk and chat with you guys, and He has. So thank the Lord for you guys, and thank the Lord for giving me strength to do this.
I was so excited tonight when you called and said you would do it. I couldn't take Tylenol PM.
Oh, guys, anytime you need me, I'll be here, okay?
Well, thank you so much. Yeah. Have a good night.
Hey, love you guys.
Love you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.